Why? Because in the Quran, khamr is declared haram. To an unknown case, ecstasy, which is a modern day drug that only appeared in the last 5 or 10 years. So the Quran, the Sunnah, couldn't pronounce on ecstasy. But applying the ruling haram of a known case, wine, to an unknown case, ecstasy, based on a shared rationale, which they both alter the natural state of the mind. In terms of the maqasid Shari'a, hifz, protecting, deen, life, deen, nafs, aql. So this is directly governed as a threat to the soundness of the aql, more so in these cases. Of course, they would involve both gradually harm to the body, but their immediate effect from day one, the day you take ecstasy, it alters your mind. But it might not necessarily the first, second, only after a few months alter the body. The same with wine. Look, and your mind is altered, but only after some years does it gradually tear down your liver, destroy your body, waste away your brain cells. So the immediate and most pressing, relevant rationale is altering the natural state of the mind, even though it also definitely harms the body, which can be brought in but the rationale for forbidding it is so applying the ruling haram of a known case, wine, parentheses are by way of example, to an unknown case, ecstasy, based on a shared rationale altering the natural state of the mind, that is qiyas. So these are the 4 bases of law with the Sunni Muslims. These are the 4 bases of law with the Sunni Muslims. Quran, Sunnah, we mentioned Sunnah, that which is attributed to the Prophet of speech, action, or agreement. Ijma', which we mentioned, the agreement of all of the scholars of a particular age concerning a certain ruling. And we mentioned an example of that, the case of what does the grandfather inherit when the son is alive but the father has died. The Quran and Sunnah silent on that question. All of the Sahaba, the scholars amongst the Sahaba, agreed that the grandfather would get the 1/6, which would have accrued to the father in the presence of the father. So that ruling 1/6 lil jad ma'al ibn is based on ijma'. And then qiyas, applying the ruling haram of a known case, wine, to an unknown case, ecstasy, based on a shared rationale altering the natural state of the mind. So those are the 4 sources of law with the Sunni Muslims and the 4 sources of law that the Shafi'i school is built on. One final point, then there'll be a little time for questions and discussion. The basic rulings of the Shari'a. The basic rulings of the Shari'a are 5. So, one is fard or wajib. And we mentioned the difference between fard and wajib last week with the Hanafis and within the Shafi'i school, and the fact that basically they're synonymous in terms of implying obligation. So, fard in the divine law is something the lawgiver, Allah Ta'ala, has demanded to be performed strongly, has strongly demanded. So, either through repetition, either through other evidence that emphasize the strength of the demand, and a person who undertakes that obligation is rewarded, and the person who fails to undertake that obligation is punished. Such as the 5 prayers. One who undertakes the 5 obligatory prayers is rewarded for that. One who leaves the 5 obligatory prayers is punished by Allah Ta'ala. Secondly, sunnah. Sunnah in this sense doesn't mean that which is attributed to the Prophet of action, speech, or agreements. Sunnah, and sometimes we see the word mustahab or mandub, same meaning, is a highly desirable act, or one that the lawgiver has demanded or ordered us to do, but not strongly. The order isn't a strong order. So it's not as strong as the order that establishes the wajib. So it's an order to do something, but not a strong order. Therefore, one who undertakes it is rewarded. The one who neglects it is not punished. Such as the prayers around the daily prayers. 2 before Fajr, 2 before and after Dhuhr, in the soundest opinions. 2 before Asr, 2 after Maghrib, 2 after Isha. And we'll get to all of that, because there are other opinions which relate other numbers. Actually, none before Asr, just the 10. 2 before Fajr, that's 2, because that's the strongest hadith. 2 before Fajr, 2 before Dhuhr, 4, 2 after Dhuhr, 6, 2 after Maghrib, 8, 2 after Isha, 10. Thirdly is what's called mubah, or permissible. So something mubah, the lawgiver has not demanded us to do it, nor commanded us to leave it. So there's no reward for doing it, and there's no punishment for leaving it. Watching television. Something good, watching Flipper on television. Flipper reruns. Not watching MTV. Watching Flipper reruns on television. So we haven't been ordered to watch television. We haven't been commanded to leave television. Television in and of itself is controversial, but in the most generally accepted opinions. So we're not rewarded for doing it, and we're not punished for leaving it. 4 is the makruh. Now you can see we're going from this end, we're going from RP, R, nothing, to R, and then RP. We're reversing. So makruh is something the lawgiver has commanded us to leave, but not very strongly. So this is something that's highly disliked. Here, obligation, highly desirable, permissible, highly undesirable. So we've been commanded to leave it, but not strongly. So if we leave it, we're rewarded, and if we engage in it, we're not punished.
For example, like divorce?
No, divorce is permissible. That's a permissible action. What the hadith on divorce says? At-talaq abghadul halal indallah. So it's the most disliked of all permissible things. And then number 5, haram. So haram is forbidden. So this is something the lawgiver has strongly commanded us to leave. Therefore, if we leave it, we're rewarded, and if we do it, we're punished. The exact opposite of here. If we do this, we're rewarded, the fard, and if we leave the fard, we're punished. Here, if we leave the haram, we're rewarded, and if we do the haram, we're punished. Here, if we do that which is sunnah, we're rewarded. And if we leave that which is makruh, we're rewarded. And mubah, there's no reward or punishment involved. طيب. One thing, what's the most popular thing that's mentioned as being makruh amongst the Muslims? Smoking cigarettes. All of those fatwa, the most popularly and frequently referenced from really great scholars, from Abdul Ghani and Nablusi, the great Palestinian Syrian scholar, نسبة إلى نابلس في فلسطين نشأ وتوفي في دمشق. That's Dimashq, Philistine, حاجة واحدة. So his fatwa, because he was In the latter 18th century, cigarettes were new amongst the Muslims. He didn't know about the medical harm.